Hey, welcome to Slightly A Ways North. First, I have to thank Holly LaRock for connecting me with our legendary next guest. You might not recognize his face, but I guarantee you'd know his characters if you grew up in the 80s and 90s. But before we get started, in the spirit of vanity and shameless abject consumerism, I feel compelled to inform you that this podcast is also available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and a variety of other fringe services nobody's ever heard of that frankly probably won't exist in 2 years. And since there's entirely too much space on the internet, if you're enjoying these podcasts, please like and subscribe. The YouTube one. The button's down below, so if you could just click the damn thing, it would really help. You know, I had a colleague once who said never arm wrestle with a puppeteer. Our next guest is not only one of the greats in the puppeteering world, but as a veteran writer as well. He happened to work with a guy you might have heard of, Jim Henson. You might also know him from Fraggle Rock, The Big Comfy Couch, Iggy Iguana from Under the Umbrella Tree, or Basil from Sesame Park. And that's a pretty short list. He's done lots of others. He's also an author. Holly told me his new book, Puppets, is scary as hell. I actually just finished it, and it is indeed scary as hell. In fact, you should buy a copy and read it, but you'd better get it fast from Merlin Star Press, because when I bought my copy, Indigo and Chapters were sold out. You please welcome my next guest, Bob Stutt. Bob, thank you for doing this with me. I really, really appreciate it.
I'm good. Life is good on the East Coast. Oh, it's great fun. Doing the book tours thing and the autograph signings, and of course, for a puppeteer to be out from behind the curtain is a new experience. I don't know. I don't know. I guess that's the creative juices, I guess.
Yeah.
Here's my plug. There it is.
Yeah.
Merlin Star Press. You
Oh,
can also
man.
get it through my website, which is robertstutt.ca.
Yeah.
Like you said, I've always been a script writer, and I've also been a journal writer. I've got every day of my life written down for the last 53 years. So I think with a lot of writers, and it's certainly true with me, it's almost an obsessive compulsive thing. You know, if I don't write every day, then I get edgy and I, don't feel right. And so I have to start getting words down on the page. And somehow, out of all the experiences I've had in the puppet world over the years, this story came out. I must emphasize it's fiction. It's not. It's got a lot of my experiences in it, but the character is not me. So don't worry about it.
Yeah, it's honestly pretty scary stuff. When you decided to write a book, did you just decide I'm going to write a book? Like, how long did it take you to write it? And then you got to find a publisher and all that stuff. That's not an easy thing to do either.
That's the hard part these days, finding somebody who'll take on a first-time author. So I had written this manuscript, and I had moved to Fredericton, New Brunswick in 2022, and saw an article in the paper on a new press, Merlin Star Press here in New Brunswick, started by a group of writers and artists who decided that it was really tough for new writers to get published, and they decided, even in this really tough publishing climate, to start a new publishing house. And I thought, either these people are crazy or they're people I'd like to get to know. So I sent my query letter, my sample, and then they asked for the manuscript, and we went from there, and they loved it. So here it's out, it's available. I don't know all the history of all the people involved, but you could be right. I'm not sure. Yeah, I've interviewed CBC, and Chapters has had me in for a couple of book signings and stuff. So, and the feedback I'm getting has been good. I would love to get a professional review of it at some point, but that hasn't happened yet. So I'm hoping somebody would pick it up and do that. It's featured in the Atlantic Books Today magazine that comes out next month. And yeah, I got lots of friends who say, "Oh, I can't put it down," and then you see them 2 weeks later and they still can't put it down. But um, anyway, it's. I think it's surprised some people in that you get labeled as a children's performer and you come out with an adult suspense novel, and so that gets me a few strange reactions too. But so far so good.
Yeah, it wasn't definitely not something that I think anybody would have been expecting. That's for sure. Are you going to write another book? Or is that it? Do we have to satisfy ourselves with your amazing first book?
Well, I think I have to get incentivized a little bit. I mean, it's sort of a classic thing in the TV script world where you'll do first script on spec, and
yeah,
after that you expect to get somebody with a hefty advance or something.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't blame you at all. I mean, it's one of those. Yeah, it is tough.
And there's only so much time, but I'm still writing every day, so who knows? I've got notebooks full of possibles, so we'll see.
Yeah, so I mean, I really wanted to kind of start with the book, especially since I was giddy from finishing it. But I mean, those that don't know wouldn't be watching. I think most of us watching would know you from your work as a puppeteer. And then, those of us that went growing up watching you, in my case, Iggy Iguana and the like, and of course, Basil. But going into television, you've also written, I think how many of your shows that you've performed on that you've written on? Probably almost all of them. Haven't you?
I never wrote for the Muppets, but I wrote 80 of the Umbrella Tree scripts and Big Comfy Couch, and I was a Sesame Street writer even before I started doing the characters. So, and then I wrote for a lot of stuff that is not puppets, a lot of animation stuff for places like that, and shows like Theodore Tugboat. I was one of the writers on that one.
I remember Theodore Tugboat. I used to watch that on CBC
last year, I think, or something.
What's that?
They had a Theodore Tugboat, an actual one that was in the Halifax Harbor for years.
Oh man, I didn't know that.
And then it got sold, and I think it was in Peterborough, maybe, where it's
Peterborough. That's kind of a random place for it to go.
I could have that wrong, but I think it was somewhere in Ontario where it ended up.
It would be interesting if it wound up in Peterborough. Funny, early on in my career, I almost wound up working at Chex Television in Peterborough.
Oh, CHEX, yeah.
Yeah. CHEX, yeah. I think it's a chorus station now. And I'm not sure if they've moved. Here's another fun fact. Peter Wildman of the Frantics, he was the creative director for Chorus. And that was one of the stations that he was in charge of for all the commercials and stuff.
The Frantics trivia for you. Dan Redican, who's a good friend of mine and a wonderful puppeteer. I used to do a live show that I toured through the high schools back in the late 70s, and Dan was my roadie.
Oh, are you serious? Yeah. That is so cool.
Back when he had his live character, Poopy Dan, he would do all the...
Poopy Dan,
yeah. He had a wonderful, wonderful comedy act, wonderful song. He'd do songs like Kittens in the Microwave and stuff like that.
Oh, my God. Puppets Who Killed the Origin.
Puppets Who Kill, yeah. That John Pattison.
Yeah.
There's a guy you should interview.
I actually have been trying to track him down, which is interesting because the first guest that I had on the show was actually Eric Nagler.
Okay. Because I wrote for that too.
Oh man, that doesn't really surprise. It was quite sharp. I was watching it later. Actually, I just was watching it basically a couple of months ago, as I hadn't seen it since I was a kid, because I was a TVO kids kid. And, and I was watching it, and it's like, man, this stuff is quick. And some of the stuff, it's interesting how stuff gets in. I mean, I always try to squeak stuff in where I can, but how did you, I guess my question is, let's go all the way back. How did you end up getting into puppeteering as a career? Like what's the origin story of that? I'm really curious.
Okay. My origin story, and I've told this many times, I graduated from university in Peterborough in 1975 with no idea what I wanted to do. I ended up with an English degree, and I decided I would see a bit more of the country, and I wanted to see either East Coast or the West Coast. So I flipped a coin. It came up tails, so that meant the East Coast. So I went down east and hitchhiked all through New Brunswick, Nova Scotia, over to Newfoundland, all across Newfoundland. And then one day I was outside Wolfville, Nova Scotia, and Ron Wagner, who had the Maritime Clown and Puppet Company with his wife Cheryl, picked me up on the road, and he took me home and invited me in for dinner, and he showed me the puppets he was making for a tooth decay commercial for a public service. And he had a big grandfather molar, and he had a mosquito-looking thing with a drill for a nose. That was the tooth decay guy, and I thought, this is, kind of interesting, and they were great people, became lifelong friends of mine. And I got back on the road, and I really liked Nova Scotia. I got a job at the Halifax Library in the branch on Gottingen Street, which was a pretty tough neighborhood. And they had a new little puppet theater built into the building. And they asked the staff who would like to do the puppet shows on Saturday morning. If I had not met Ron and Cheryl, I would have probably said, no, I'm not interested. But because I had met them, I thought, I'll give it a try. So we just had store-bought puppets, and we write our own little fractured fairy tales, and quickly found out that if you just had puppets who got up there and just talked, then the kids would rip up the stage and the seats and start throwing things. But if you added in a little action, a little chase scene, a little fight scene, all that kind of stuff, then you could actually hold their attention. And I thought, this is interesting, and I found I had a bit of a talent for it. So then they started to send me to Puppet Festival. There used to be a puppet festival in Wolfville, Nova Scotia. So that's where I saw Puppet Monger's Pal from Toronto for the first time. Code Canada from Vancouver was there. Mm-hmm. And then I went down, and in the States, they have the Puppeteers of America Festival every year at different places. It was in New London, Connecticut that year. Actually drove down there with Ron and Cheryl, and we went to that. Saw some fantastic stuff. I did a workshop with a wonderful woman, Nikki Tilrow, who ran the Frog Print Theater in Toronto. And Nikki's just this little 5-foot-tall dynamo who was all about manipulation. She was all about movement. She was all about how to make puppets come alive. Mm-hmm. And I went up, I knew I was going back to Toronto to go to graduate school at that point. I went to Nikki and I said, could I take classes with you in Toronto? And she said, sure. So I signed up and I started doing classes with Nikki while I was going to graduate school. And after a year of that, she asked me to join her touring company with Frog Print Theater. And I wasn't finished school yet, but I said, sure. So that's when I went to my parents and said, Mom, Dad, after 5 years of university, I'm going to be a puppeteer. And I went on the road with Frog Print. I worked with them for 5 years, doing a very formal puppet apprenticeship. Nikki had studied under a European puppeteer and Czech puppeteer. So first year I wasn't allowed to do any voices at all. It was all movement stuff. Mm-hmm. I did all circus arts, mime, juggling, unicycle, slackwire, all that kind of stuff. Yeah. Nikki was doing a few commercials at that point, and she was also doing a show called Cucumber.
I remember on TVO, I was a member of Club Cucumber.
Okay, yeah.
I think I still have my card somewhere in my button.
Yeah, you know who used to appear on that show regularly was John Candy.
John Candy, yeah.
Yeah, just as this 17-year-old kid or something, 18-year-old kid.
Well, I also remember Nikki
anyway,
from
so
today's
I
special.
Pardon?
I think Nikki had done a bunch of stuff for today's special too, I think, and a bunch of stuff for TBO.
Well, I came right after that. But she got me in to do a couple of commercials with her, to be her puppet assistant on a couple of commercials.
Mm-hmm.
And that got me my actor card, which I joined actor in 78.
Yeah.
And then today's special came along, and I got hired to help out with that. Nina Keogh did Muffy the Mouse,
Yep.
and Bobby Dermer did Sam Crenshaw, the Night Watchman.
Yep.
Noreen Young built those puppets. And then Nina got pregnant. So there was one season where she couldn't do the puppet because she wouldn't fit into all the holes. So I would do the puppet, and Nina would sit just off camera and do Muffy's voice. And then they brought in characters like Muffy's country cousin Mort the Mouse that I did, and stuff like that. So that was my introduction to series television. And at the same time, Nina worked on Friendly Giant, there was two cats in the music room, Angie and Fiddle.
Yeah.
And the puppeteer for one of them passed away. I forget his name now. And Nina asked me to step in there. So I ended up doing the last 7 seasons of Friendly Giant at that point. So I'd done, and I was doing commercials and stuff. And then Muppets came to town in 81 to audition for Fraggle Rock. They just finished, of course, they did Muppet Show in London, in England.
Yeah.
And they had this new series they wanted to do, and Jim wanted to shoot in Canada because he'd shot his very first special, Frog Prince, in Canada, in Toronto, back in the 60s. And he liked the crew, he liked the people, he liked the cheap dollar.
Yeah, I don't blame him. Was that at the old Jarvis studios, the old CBC studios? I wonder where they taped that.
Tape Fraggle?
No, the Frog Prince.
Yeah, you could be right.
I don't know. I'm just curious. I'll have to look it up.
John, we used to do in the little Mutual Street studio right behind Maple Leaf Gardens.
Yeah.
And just a very small studio. At one end was Knowlton Nash's National News Desk, and at the other end was Friendly's Castle. And they just turned the cameras around between the morning and the evening. So while I was waiting to go on in Friendly, I'd be sitting at Knowlton Nash's desk with my feet up. And anyway, the Muppets came to town, and they held an open audition. So, and at that time, they were looking for 11 people, looking for 11 Canadians. They were using all their regular guys, but they needed 11 Canadians for background stuff and all that kind of stuff. So they put out an open call, and, I'm adding up the puppeteers on my fingers, and I'm figuring, geez, I'm pretty guaranteed a job. There's not that many of us. And you get to the Sumac Street audition studio, and there is over 300 people there. Every actor, every clown, every magician.
Oh yeah, everybody's going to want to. Yeah,
everybody was there to audition for the Muppets. So they were pretty clever, though. They Richard Hunt did the beginning auditions. They bring us in 10 at a time. We'd put a puppet on, and Richard would just stand there and ask us all to count to 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And then he would say, okay, you, and you, thank you very much, goodbye, you and you, stick around. And what he was looking for, when you're counting to 10, every number is one syllable except for 7.
Yeah.
7. You got to count twice. So if you miss that, then he sort of,
you don't have the coordination because it's two movements of the hand, and he's going, hey, there are two movements. I want to see that mouth open twice.
Yeah, it would just obviously that you'd never had a puppet on before. Not that Muppets knew that if they had somebody they really wanted, that they could train them to be puppeteers, and they did that with a few people. So anyway, they picked us out, and that was, the Muppets, they're very much an American organization in that they've got this system that always involves competition. So what they did was they pulled 13 people out of that first audition, and they put us into a 2-week intensive workshop, telling us from the beginning that there would be 11 jobs, that 2 of you would be gone. So you spend 2 weeks, and it motivates you, they're clever the way they do that. So at the end of that, I was fortunate enough to be one of the 11 that got to work with the Muppets on Fraggle for 5 seasons.
That would be huge.
And yeah, and then of course, they pull you in on they did a lot of the Miss Piggy special and the Christmas specials and all that kind of stuff too. You got to do in the first Sesame Street movie I worked on, Follow That Bird.
That's also classic.
Yeah, and then once you got the Muppets on your resume, then, not only was it a master class in puppetry, it was also, a guarantee of work going forward.
That's, yeah. It's funny. One of the things that, because there seems to be an awful lot of it. Now, I went into live action later, but originally I trained for animation. And that was actually, that was how I actually wound up working with Noreen. I didn't work with Noreen that often, but we worked on some stuff in Max Keeping. I don't know if you know him. He was my first boss, but I had worked at, and it's also interesting that you mentioned guys like Bobby Dermer, because he was on Raccoons. So that was at, I guess, originally Atkinson Atkinson Film Arts. There's a little bit of a delay in my headset, which became Hinton, on Raccoons with Kevin Gillis. And then the studio still exists. They just kept changing the name because it went Hinton and then it went Lacewood and then it went Amberwood. And I was there at that time. And then I went to Sheridan College, it was a degree program at that point, the classical animation program. And you run into these same people. And with Noreen, she was like, I need somebody. She went to Max saying, I need somebody to do these commercials, but I want somebody that worked in animation and understands weight and timing and form. And I guess that was how my name came up. And it's the more I learned about puppeteering, the more I started to understand that's why she wanted that. I don't know if it's
Holly
the
work
same.
On Raccoons as well?
What's that?
Did Holly work on Raccoons as well?
I don't think Holly worked on Raccoons, but she did work on Teddy Ruxpin, which Atkinson Film Arts had done. So she's done a ton of voiceover stuff, and she surprised me. I didn't know. For all my I'm TV, whatever. Now that I work in it, I think she enjoyed kind of surprising me because it never twigged to me that she was Mitzi.
Oh, on Under the Umbrella Tree.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
God,
I never twigged that it was Mitzi at all.
Yeah.
For whatever reason.
That's sort of people don't really understand a lot of what goes on in the puppet set, but that's a classic example of Steve Brathwaite did the puppet. Mitzi was a little dog, cute little dog.
Yeah.
Female character, good, Gloria's best friend. So Holly would just sit, again, just off camera, and she would do the voice, and Steve would have to sync to her voice. And he was really good at that. And most puppeteers are pretty darn good at that.
Yeah.
I did a series of almost 100 commercials in Denmark with a character named Harry who was the spokesperson for the Danish National Railway.
Mm-hmm.
He's this purple puppet who lived in the real world. Everybody treated him like he was a complete idiot, but everybody treated him, he worked in an office. And the conceit of the commercials was that he had this old brown Ford that he drove everywhere, and his boss, Benson, the actor, took the train. And, it was always about the dynamic between the two of them. Mm. But I don't speak a word of Danish, and Danish is a tough language, but they would send me the tapes beforehand that I would get to listen to. And, you're hearing the rhythm and the speed and of all the sounds, and you can sync to it pretty darn well. So that's just a puppeteer trick. You don't even have to know the language to sync to it.
You can hear tone and get some emotion and start to get a pulse to kind of play off of, I imagine.
Oh, sure. And they give you a translation.
Oh, okay. So you have some context. So at least to some degree, you know what the hell is going on.
Yeah, but in Danish, it's funny because the Danish language, unlike English, where you have 10 words for one thing, in Danish you have one word for 10 things. So punning is like the national art form over there. So all the jokes were puns in Danish, And when they give you the English translation, the puns don't work at all. So for me, the punchlines would be, a tractor. Well, didn't make any sense to me, but in Danish, the word for tractor would also mean so many other things that would be very funny.
Yeah, it's funny how that kind of stuff happens, because I remember hearing there were some colleagues at Nelvana that I remember. I think there were some translation challenges on, I think, Dumb Bunnies, when they were translating Dumb Bunnies into different languages. And one of the visual jokes that I remember being a real pain for them to adapt in other languages was the Disneyland left, and there was a sign pointing left, and the joke was, "Hey, Disneyland left, I don't know where it went." But it makes it very difficult to translate. It's the same sort of deal. We can laugh at it because we understand English, but it's so I do want to talk about Noreen, but I wanted to kind of dial back a little bit into your time working with Jim on Fraggle Rock, because there's a cool picture on your website of you working with him. Yeah. Was that the first time that you'd worked with the Jim Henson Company?
I had been, when they shot Emmett Otter a couple of years before that, I'd been invited to the set and got to hang out with and met Jim there. And I'd also met him at a couple of puppet festivals as well.
Oh,
but that
okay.
was the first time he was my boss and I was working for him. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
And that was interesting because I'm working with, for Muppet fans, it's known as the Original Five. So that's Jim Henson and Frank Oz and Richard Hunt, Jerry Nelson, and Steve Whitmire, or Dave Goltz.
Dave Goltz, I was going to say, yeah.
So that's all the guys from the Muppet Show. But the Fraggle puppets were all different. I mean, they were all new puppets. So the first time, and then we ended up doing, after 2 seasons of Fraggle, we did a special, the Miss Piggy special. So that was the first time I got to work with Miss Piggy and Fozzie and Gonzo, the puppets.
That'd be huge. They shot that in Canada as well? I didn't actually know that they shot the Miss Piggy special here. That's cool.
Yeah, they shot it at the CTV studios, right at 401 and McCowan Road there.
Oh, the mothership at Asian Corps. Oh, man.
Yeah.
I have some stories from there. Not for today, but
Andy Kaufman was on that.
Really?
Yeah, and he was doing his character, that obnoxious Vegas guy, Tony Clifton.
Yeah.
And so Andy he would downtown the hotel. He would dress as Tony Clifton in the morning before he even came to the studio, and then he was Tony Clifton all day. And Tony Clifton was a complete asshole. So by the end of the week, everybody hated Tony Clifton. And but Jim loved characters like that. He just thought it was wonderful. But and again, this is only Muppet fans really appreciate this. But my moment I really treasure in my whole puppet career was they were shooting a scene in the Miss Piggy special, and it was the same conceit that instead of running a theater, they were running a TV studio.
Right.
So Kermit was the director and Fozzie was, the switcher, and Gonzo was doing the lighting, and they had a whole mock control room.
And everybody's running roughshod over them.
Yeah, and they're shooting a control room scene, and I'm just watching. I'm just standing there watching from behind the camera. Yeah. And Jim's got Kermit up between Fozzie and Gonzo. And at one point he comes out from behind because they had to do a lighting change, and he doesn't want to hang around for that. And I'd always heard that nobody else put Kermit on, but he came up to me, he's walking past, and he comes up to me and he hands me Kermit and he says, "Bob, can you hold Kermit up in the scene for me? We're just going to check the lights." Sure. I put Kermit the Frog on, and I go up and I'm holding him up. And of course, puppeteering, you've got a monitor. You can see everything.
Yeah, exactly.
That you're seeing. You see what the camera sees. Mm-hmm. And I can see Kermit's between Fozzie and Gonzo, and there I am running Kermit the Frog. And then they stop and other guys put the puppets down. Frank Oz says to me, he says, Bob, you can put the puppet down. I said, Frank, when am I ever going to have Kermit the Frog in my hand again? I'm staying up here. So as long as I could, I did. So, it might not seem too exciting to have a little piece of cloth in your hand, but I'm one of the few people that had Kermit the Frog.
Well, I can understand it, because I mean, Kermit is a legend, and he's one of the characters that's been around in some form or another, the very beginning.
You're talking about the most famous puppet in the world, probably.
Yeah, Kermit. Yeah. He'd be right up there with Mickey Mouse, I would say.
Well, Mickey wasn't a puppet, so.
No, Mickey wasn't a puppet, but I mean, up there in the sense that a character that's just as well known.
Charlie McCarthy and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. Mortimer III.
Yeah. No, exactly. How did you find? How did you find working on Fraggle Rock and with Jim? What was sort of the mood like compared? Because every set kind of has their own mood.
It's first class all the way. That's the thing. Most puppet shows are very budget restricted. Muppetry, we shot in a garage at CBC Studios in Ottawa, a former garage for the trucks. So it didn't have a very high ceiling. So that's why we had to work on rolling stools. And poor Holly was on these little causeways that we would rebuild. They were modular and we could reset so she could walk across the set. But if you ever saw, what she was walking, we always had people in case she fell. But the rest of us, Noreen and Steve and I, are on little rolling stools, hunched down, moving ourselves around with our feet. Whereas in Muppets, everything's built 3.5, 4 feet off the ground so that you can just work standing all the time. You can walk
That's fantastic.
And of course, the best puppet makers in the world. The shop was incredible. And on Fraggle, of course, the Doozers. You remember the Doozers?
Of course I remember the Doozers.
And they had all the remote control vehicles they had.
Yeah.
Well, Foz Fazakis, who was their tech genius for years and years, he built all that stuff. And I remember talking to him in the shop one time and saying, Foz, these things are fantastic. And he says, yeah, and they cost more than a Ferrari. So
yeah.
That's the kind of budget they have. And Jim would direct, maybe he would direct 6 or 7 episodes each year. Mm-hmm. And when Jim was directing, he was a perfectionist. So he would take after take after take. And we would go till 4 or 5 in the morning. Over time, nobody said to Jim, we got to move on. So that was the wonderful thing about working with the Muppets, not only getting to do right hand for the best puppeteers in the world and seeing how they do it, but having all that first class experience. So it really was a master class in TV puppetry for all of us. And it created a whole generation of Canadian puppeteers, Rob Mills and Gord Robertson and Trish Leeper, who all had wonderful careers since then. And we're all grateful to Henson for that.
Well, at the same time, I mean, who's going to turn around? I mean, maybe there's some people out there, but who's going to turn around and go, I'm working with Jim Henson and, I just want to go home. You might be tired, but I mean, I just can't picture, even at the time, he was an absolute larger than life legend. Who's going to say, I'm not going to put in overtime for Jim Henson? It's like, oh my God, it's Jim Henson.
That's right. It was, and it wasn't just the puppeteers; it was the whole crews. Everybody. They would. Jim was just one of those guys that everybody would go, to the ends of the earth to satisfy. So when you get a set that's motivated like that, it's something to see. But you had to work your butt off. I mean, there was no, if something was not right, you'd get called out for it. Absolutely, yeah. Mm-hmm. And that was the thing. Jim had this eye. He could do a shot and there's maybe 30 Fraggles in it. And he'll look at it and then he go, who's this up here in the corner doing this? And, that was me. And then, don't do that anymore. Okay. All right. Yeah. Stuff that the rest of us wouldn't even see. So.
Yeah. Well, the other thing too is, I mean, I think one of the things that might help, I mean, obviously I've never met Jim, but from all accounts, from what I hear, he worked as hard as anybody. So
Yeah, he was one of those guys that his vocation was his avocation. I remember going to his hotel where he was staying in Toronto at one time, and the whole room was filled with video equipment. So he would spend a day at the studio, and then he would come home and start experimenting with the new stuff that he had and the new toys that he had. So yeah, I mean, it was going all the time. And that's the tragedy. I mean, he died at 53. Imagine the projects that he still had.
And he had so many shows, so many things, and all kinds of stuff. And I remember the storytellers and all kinds of
from the Jim Henson Hour.
Amazing stuff. So if we move forward a little bit, so how did you? I'm guessing it was to some degree with Nick. How did you come to work with Noreen and her projects?
Noreen built the puppets for today's special.
Yeah.
So I would have met her in 78, 79.
Yeah.
And Noreen is like Jim, in the sense, and there aren't, these people are rare anymore, but one of their biggest talents was finding good people and then letting them go. So if Noreen liked you and she liked what you did, she would literally find projects for you to do, for you to work on. And we always worked great. And she told me later that she actually created Iggy Iguana with me in mind, which was fantastic. But then we started to do the show. And after the first season, Noreen came to me and said, Bob, I want you to be a writer on the show. I'd never written, I had no script credits at all at that point. And yet she, for whatever reason, thought, I want you to write a script. So I started writing scripts, and I ended up writing over 80 of the Muppetry scripts, and it started my script career. I was not aggressively looking to be a script writer, but Noreen saw something in me, and I'm not the only one that this happened to. She would do this. And same with Jim. He would find people that he thought would great for the job and send them on their way, just launch them. Yeah.
Well, I can't speak for Jim, but I certainly saw Noreen do this many, many, many times.
Yeah. It sounds like you're a bit of an example yourself. So
I didn't get to work with her like for years and years, but I did work with her on and off for, a year, probably about a year or two sporadically on stuff. And she was always very nice to me.
Anybody who doesn't know, Noreen just passed away a couple of months ago. And we had a wonderful memorial in Almont just 2 weeks ago on Saturday. And, it was an amazing gathering of Canadian puppeteers. Ronnie Burkett and Jim Rankin and Rob Mills was there, and Bobby Dermer was there, and Holly was there, and people I hadn't seen in decades. Trish Leeper was there, and just what a remarkable lady. And the whole town, of course, of Almont, where she lived, they have a puppet festival every 2 years, big international puppet festival. And, wonder why, because Noreen started it.
Yeah.
And
I grew up not far from there.
Yeah, there's a bronze statue of Gloria in the town. And of course, Steve's brother, who's a fantastic puppeteer and master real estate developer in town. He's rebuilt and restored half that place.
Beautiful properties too. We almost actually rented an office for Skycron there at one point, and then the winds of change happened, but he had redeveloped this mill, and it was just stunning. Stunning.
I mean, small towns in Ontario, they're dying, and you look into downtowns, they're dead, and people go to Almont, and here's this vibrant downtown, and it's because of people like Noreen and Steve. That's the trick to bringing life back into a city, is to have those kinds of people.
Well, everybody in the valley knows the old post office on the hill.
Yeah,
that's for sure. I mean, it's tough. When I taped the interview with Holly, it was still pretty fresh. I was shocked. I found out about it from a friend of mine on Facebook, and it really it was hard to picture. But one of the things that I'll go ahead and say it, when there was some weird stuff, really weird, not like audio echoes or stuff cutting in and out. There was something really weird going on with the audio when I was setting up with Holly.
The streaming. Okay.
Yeah. When we were doing and it was getting high pitched and all this weird stuff I could hear on my headset. And I said to Holly, once we got it going, you know what? I think Noreen did that. And I wasn't kidding. Just like a little prank, just to screw with us for a minute or two, just a good natured giggle.
Yeah. Well, after the speeches and everything was over, I gathered all the puppeteers together for a group photo because we were never going to get all these people together again. So I gathered everybody together in a group photo. There's maybe 15 of us, and somebody takes the photo on my phone. And when I get it back later, there was a slideshow going on of Noreen's life on the stage. And it just happens that there's this wonderful group photo, and up in the corner, the left corner, you can just see a bit of the screen, and it just, every 4 seconds, those pictures changed. Yeah. And it just so happens that the one picture that's in that photo is a laughing Noreen about 8 years old. And she's looking down on the group, and she's got this she's obviously laughing very hard, big smile on her face. And we all of us just thought, oh, there's Noreen photobombing the group photo. I mean, the chances that you would get that one shot in that 4 seconds, it was just, it had to be her.
I think the most difficult thing in the short but very fun amount of time that I had working with Noreen, I always prided myself on my professionalism and stone face and all this.
Yeah.
It was so hard not to laugh. It was so hard not to laugh.
I mean, so many laughs in every set. And, there's a sense and a purpose of that. Like you're doing a kid's show, and the crew are all sort of jaded old guys and women. And, but if they don't know what the puppet's going to say next, and you never did, especially on Umbrella Tree, they're always watching. They're always focused. They're always ready to see what's going to happen next. They're not off taking a break or something like that. So it was a bit of a strategy on the puppeteers' parts just to keep everybody focused by adding in these things. And certainly if you did a shot and you noticed their head was showing up in the bottom of frame and you knew that they couldn't use it, then, that's when you add to the blooper reel. Yeah.
Half of this, like we would keep the cameras running sometimes just in between if we had relatively short setups. And I would say 70% of those things we couldn't use. And Steve was really bad with this. He would see, Corey's trying not to laugh. And then he would up the ante.
Yeah.
The one, it's like, okay, I'm going to make him. The one, I think it's still online. I'll send it to you. I think I have it still. I think we were, the Barley Mow I don't think is in Almont anymore, but it was one of the outtakes for the commercial.
Okay.
And we were just doing a lighting change or something because something looked a little off scale and just needed to fix it. And the line that came out was, "My life in latex, I tell ya, and not the way you're thinking either." And that was the one that just did it. I'm like, okay, Steve, you win. It was just, I didn't see that coming at all.
But even if you go back to like the Friendly Giant, Friendly Giant was shot live to tape because they had no editing budget.
Yeah.
So what they would do, but of course, Rod Connie Bear, who did Rusty and Jerome, and Bob Hummy, the Friendly Giant, have been doing this for 25 years.
Yeah.
So what we would do is we do a run through the script, the full 15 minutes, and then we would go right live to tape. So those run throughs, I mean, these guys, they were just trying to keep themselves interested. So the run-throughs were absolutely hilarious. And I always thought they should have had the adult version on after Hockey Night in Canada on Saturday nights of the Friendly Giant, because those two guys together were absolutely hilarious. And of course, you take somebody like Frank Oz and put them on a set, and the camera's rolling, but he knows it's not being used. I mean, Miss Piggy she was absolutely outrageous. She would, like you said, she would have guys wetting their pants, and which was always killed me because Frank Oz without the puppet is, very, anything but very dry. I mean, he's a very funny guy, but he's very intimidating, put it that way. But Miss Piggy, she was just out of her mind. Yeah.
Actually, I was talking about this with Holly. One of my very favorite moments that went over my head as a kid is actually one of the scenes with you as Iggy. And it was the episode, I think, because I watched it a couple of years ago. And it was the scene, I think it was the episode where they decide, like, everybody decides to start a singing telegram company or something.
Okay.
And I guess one of the gigs the jobs they had, Holly and Jacob or whoever went out dressed up as like fries or a hamburger or something or whatever. And then it cuts back and then the costume's all destroyed. And and Jacob turns around and says, okay, he didn't go. It was, I forget. No, it was you, Iggy, and I guess Holly had gone in character to this event. And Jacob goes, what happened to you? And Holly goes, I guess we were just too much for that poor woman, because it was like some kind of a happy diet celebration or whatever. And you as Iggy went, well, we did look delicious. And she's like, yeah, I guess it was just too much for that poor woman. And then I don't know if it was an ad lib or not, but then you turned around and said, well, at least she calmed down when her husband said she'd give her a hot dog. And I'm like, how did you even get that in there?
Well, that's just you, Corey. That's just your dirty mind.
It is, but
we did slip some things in there, but that wasn't one of them.
That wasn't one of them?
No.
Oh, man. Okay. Well, then that's my dirty mind then.
Yeah, it is exactly. But, in a lot of ways, I feel sorry for Holly because we really, she was not, the butt of the joke, but she was often caught up in the middle of these crazy puppets doing their weird and wonderful things.
Yeah.
And she was, she put up with a lot from us, but boy, she was, you work with somebody who has such a talent. It's just, everybody thinks this acting gig, it's just, I could do that. It's like writing. You talk to people and say, oh, I wrote a book. And they said, oh, I'm going to write a book too. It's like there's nothing to it. And people think, oh, this acting thing, it's just reading lines. Well, no, you work with somebody like Holly or Jeff Hislop on today's special who are real masters. And you finally go, wow. Poor Holly, she had health issues over the thing and she often got migraines.
Yeah.
She'd be at the point where she, had to be in a dark dressing room and just lying on the couch. And then we'd call her down to be on set. Lights would go on, call action, and she's Holly. And, then the scene would end and they'd almost have to, help her off the set. It just amazes me, people that can do that. And of course, Holly was a triple threat. She's a fabulous singer, dancer.
She's an amazing singer. Yeah.
Oh yeah. And just an absolutely wonderful person who's dealt with a lot of tragedy in her life too. And just one of my absolutely favorite people. Yeah.
And she's done everything. That was where I was forever and a day at CGOH. And then she went in there. She was doing Uncle Willie and Floyd with the late, great Les Lyon and Bill Luxton.
And then all the tours with the big band. And
absolutely. It's just, it's fantastic. And I know you have an engagement, so I don't want to keep you too long. I'm sort of
I'm going to have to go.
Yeah, no, exactly. So, but before we go, and then I'll just do a quick play out. So what have you got coming up next? Anything interesting, or are you still kind of, it's sort of a mystery for now?
But I am doing a gig in Moncton on the 26th of this month. Thursday, it's with John Batt of the at Canada.gov Instagram fame. He tours around all over the place. He specializes in Canadian nostalgia, Canadian trivia, and that kind of stuff. And I've done a couple of shows with him, and I'm doing one on 26th of June at the Tire Shack in Moncton. So if anybody's able to go to that, I'd love to see you there.
Well, that's very cool.
I'm also teaching at the, there's a private school in Fredericton, the East Coast Leadership Academy, and I'm teaching puppetry.
Oh, wow.
There. Yeah. Which is fun too. So, but you know, summers are mainly for the golf course and the grandkids. So
that's fantastic. Is that what just existing students, or is it like a workshop that people can sign up for if they want to?
Yeah, it's with the students at the school. Yeah.
Okay, gotcha. That's still very cool. Well, I know you have to go, Bob. So I'll thank you so much for joining me today. I'll just play us out. If you can hang on for a second, once we're off, I'll say a quick goodbye before you jet. This one's super quick.
Thanks, Corey.
No worries. So everybody, that was Bob Stutt. I'm so happy that he joined us. And again, I need to thank Holly so much for this, and hope you enjoyed it. Again, please like and subscribe. And I'm going to keep doing these because I think it's very cool to have these, all of our legendary Canadian television performers that inspired a bunch of us to go into it. So, skycron.com/go and the rest of it.